both the full timers and the seasonal folks. Because we recognize that we work for all the property owners here, and we really want some guidance and feedback from as many people as possible. The more, the better, to help us formulate some of our go forward actions. And I think everybody online here probably agree with that being a critical need. So with that, the minutes from the meetings on April 17th and May 1st have been distributed. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those. So basically I'm looking for a motion to accept those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so done deal. Those are approved.
Hi, Ed.
All right. Next agenda was an update on the Harrison Mayoral conversations. I've been continuing conversations with Mr. Mayoral. They've been very positive and very transparent on what we've been discussing here, as well as what their desires with what they're trying to do with their company. And we're continuing that. It appears that, from a skiing standpoint, that's probably no longer a consideration for Sky Valley. There are a lot of things that go into that, some general information that we received from our property owners, plus the sewer is tied to that. Access, we got a one-way in and out of the city is tied to that. So what they're doing, they've defined their core business as these much larger full service resorts, which include some commercial development as well as a whole bunch of all season activity. And, the Sky Valley, kind of was marginal on that to begin with. And they're looking at other opportunities right now. Now, the conversation with Harrison has turned to, well, what other things can we do? And really want to have a continuing conversation with him that becomes a win-win situation for the city of Sky Valley long-term and the citizens, and for Harrison. So stay tuned to that. Nothing's been decided there. Some, general things have been discussed, but he has committed to come and meet with us if we desire that, and to let him know. He's interested in doing something with his property, anywhere from, selling it to other options. Like I said, that's not part of their core business right now. So that's a continuing conversation. And, based on some of the other information we can gather here, so we can kind of decide, what the majority of our property owners really would like to see, then that'll help direct that conversation with Harrison. And then potentially we can schedule a meeting for him to come up with him and his son and, have further brainstorming. So that's the update as of now. The good news is he's being positive and very cooperative and is willing to do what he can do to help us. So that's the update so far. Any questions, any comments from the committee there?
Bill, is he willing to come up here and build some condos? What is there any indication of his interest?
At this point, I don't think he's interested in that based on what he said. Because he's really defined their core business, and that's not quite their core business. Not saying that he's ruled it out, but that was not something that he volunteered to say, hey, I'd like to do something like that.
Have you asked him if we could find a developer who would develop it? Would he sell them land?
Yes.
Okay.
I think from what I gathered from the conversation, His plan B may be to sell the property or sell portions of the property to another developer. And so I asked him, well, how can we help? What do we need to do to help you do that? And he said, well, there may be some incentives you might have to put together, et cetera. And he volunteered to help us have a conversation with us to help us decide how we could best do that. And then, then it's up to us, to come up with those incentives for another developer. And then also for us to put whatever requirements on that development we want to put on there to make sure that what gets developed is a benefit to the city.
Gotcha.
Any other questions, comments?
We appreciate you, Bill, keeping Harrison Merrill and his son in the loop and continuing the relationship. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I believe that's important. I mean, and it needs to be transparent. We don't need him to, go away mad at us.
No.
So, and, he's a gentleman. He's a pleasure to talk to. Great. Well, with that, let's move on to the next items on the agenda. These are basically updates. The building on 246, we had made a recommendation about handicap parking, electrical cleanup. Do we have an update on where we are there?
Yes, the handicap parking is to be approved with some other items on the agenda for next Tuesday. And also the electrical, Jeff Hunter has come up again and looked at the building, and he should be getting us an estimate to get that done as well.
Okay. Thank you. There was one concern expressed by a citizen about if we put the handicap parking up and we're not fully ADA accessible in the building, are we opening ourselves up to, potential legal issues? Might be a question for Doug to answer.
Okay, yeah, because I have mentioned that as well, because I'm concerned if we do go in and put these parking spots and don't have any railing, that may be a potential.
Well, and the
drawback.
bathrooms.
Right.
I don't think railings are an issue because there are no steps there.
Right.
But you still got to have so many feet according to coming in from the parking spot.
That's true. The entryways do not comply. There's no question about that.
Right.
I just think that the parking spaces are the most visible transgression that we have over there right now. And if we don't have handicap parking, somebody can just drive by and decide that we're in violation.
Yeah. Well, I'm 50-50. I'm not an attorney. I've operated a lot of businesses where we had to be ADA compliant, and there's and I've actually been through a couple of lawsuits in those businesses on the drive-by that you've mentioned. And it is a challenge. It's a problem. So I think, Madam Mayor, if we could ask Doug for an opinion on that. And
Yes, sir.
And share that with us so we can, I'm assuming we're going to have a vote on that in the council meeting Tuesday.
What that is, it's part of a bid for additional striping, and that was included with it. He just included it with it.
Okay. All right. So that'll be hopefully we can have a bit further discussion on Tuesday and make a decision. That make sense?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Bill, what is the specific question that you want to ask the city attorney?
Well, explain to them a situation that building's not ADA compliant.
Right.
Right. And the parking's, should we go ahead and do parts of it, like mark out the parking? Or should we wait until it's holistically addressed to make the building compliant?
Gotcha. Will do.
All right. Investigate options for better internet services. I think, Tim, you volunteered to head up that study.
Well, I'm on Ella's committee. So,
Don't say that.
you know, I worked Ella put me in touch with the True Vista folks, which I'll have to say, if any of you know anybody over in Chester, South Carolina, tell them thank you. They're a good group to work with. There's a good representative down in Toccoa, and he's expressed that what they can do, and they can offer up to 250 megabytes. Their distribution is all on coax. And he put me, first he said to me, he couldn't give me a map of where they have cable. He said, because for security reasons, and they didn't want their competition to know that. So then I got a call from somebody over at headquarters and said that next week he'll send me maps. So we'll see how that turns out.
Right.
I'm still trying to get a hold of somebody at Windstream. Any number, if you've got a backdoor number, anybody's got a backdoor number. I mean, I'm talking about all the people out there listening at home. Send it to me, because I've tried every number I've gotten. I've now gone to the Public Service Commission and asked them to give me a contact. And as of just before this meeting, I checked their website. They still hadn't done it, and I tried to call my contact. So that's it. And if anybody's got any of these other firms that have said they could potentially bring us service, let me know. But the True Vista folks said, you know, we can cover you anywhere you need it.
Interesting. That's
They're
interesting.
very
I happen to use True Vista, and I've got 100 meg service where I am. So the real question is where aren't they?
Well,
That's why the map's important.
yeah, and the fellow that they put me in touch with can answer those questions on a lot by lot basis if we need it, kind of thing. So we'll go from here.
Right. Good. Thank you. Sounds like a great start to figuring out where we are.
Yeah.
Tim, what is the possibility of them bringing fiber into the city?
I'll ask that question.
Yeah, we actually already have fiber here.
Yep.
We do.
Not to the residents.
I believe it's actually already inside Sky Valley.
I certainly
Yeah.
don't know about it and don't have it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one of the outcome of this will be able to hopefully map where we have fiber
Okay.
and where we have just twisted pair and where we have coaxial cable.
Coax, yeah. Okay, that would be great.
I can tell you that I believe timeshares as well as the club switched over to True Vista last year with good results, both economically and service-wise. So that's a positive for True Vista.
Good. Making progress. It's gonna
Okay,
be-
what about phone service? That's one we need to address as well. I received a call from John Hodges, who gave an accounting of discussions I guess took place back when they redid the power company's antenna, and I guess he was just letting me know that there were discussions going on there, and that tower would be accessible if Sprint or one of the other AT&Ts wanted to put their service on that tower. But the question is, who can we go to, I guess, to try and encourage that process?
Well, Sprint has actually been brought out by T-Mobile recently. And some of the Southern Link towers are actually T-Mobile adapted too, because I know I just recently changed my service and my tower is a Southern Link tower, but it now has T-Mobile on it as well. So it may be that we need to reach out to possibly T-Mobile instead of AT&T up in this area, because I think T-Mobile is expanding more than maybe some of the others are, from what I'm understanding.
Okay,
Who owns the emergency tower?
The emergency tower, I believe that's actually a county tower. The other towers that are cell phone towers are different than the emergency towers. They're attached to some of them, but they're not all the same. They normally just lease out part of them is what they normally do.
I think the
We're
original,
not we're not involved in their leases, so we don't have any way to know who's on what. So they don't disclose that with us.
I think several years ago, the original discussion was having private cell phone companies attached to the emergency tower that was replaced several years ago. I'm not sure what the details of that was at the time.
The cell phone companies now won't do that. They used to do that, but about 5 or 6 years ago, they stopped attaching to other towers because they want to come in and do their own towers now. A lot of them don't want to attach to somebody else's tower. They did used to do that, but because of the proprietary measures that they have now, they don't really like to do that too much.
Skyline would
What are the
look great.
emergency
I was going to say the Skyline would look great if everybody had their own tower up there. You know?
We'll put up some of the tree towers though.
What is the emergency tower? Is it up there next to the other tower up on
Up on Alex Mountain.
Alex?
Uh-huh, yes.
And what does it carry? 911 calls?
Basically, yes.
I
And
guess
that-
the other question, Tim, and talking to True Vista, I've read where there's funding, I guess, at the state level potentially to help rural areas improve their service. Did True Vista indicate that they were aware of those type of funding options, or is that something we need to maybe pursue? What might be out there to help fund what they would need to do to come in to expand our service?
I haven't had that discussion with them, Ed, but I will do that. I'll make a note. What is that? Is that federal dollars you're talking about?
No, I
think it's state.
It was state.
And who is the legislator that's heading this up, Ed?
Yeah, I couldn't find where I read that, but I'll try and do some legwork on that myself. I'll work.
Okay.
Tim and I.
Might have some luck on the GMA site.
That may be where I saw it.
Yeah.
I think there may have been some legislation that they were trying to get passed, but I'm not sure if everyone has been able to get some of that done this year.
I think it's Doug Collins. I remember a letter several years ago that he was involved in that, and I don't know if he still is or not.
Well, just True Vista does provide both local telephone and long distance, along with security, cable TV. They have a full package.
Okay. Great.
All right. Anything else on internet?
Thank
No,
you,
just-
Tim.
Yeah, thank you very much. Next one, I guess, on the Special Projects Committee, they wanted us to investigate having the pond and dam repaired by Harrison, Mayoral, on that land that I guess we leased from him over by the playground. Having not been here prior, what I hear is that dam was built, created a small lake there. Is that correct?
Yes.
And was that dam built for flood control, or was it just a nice thing to have?
I think it was used to create a water supply for the ski slopes.
Oh,
Okay, for the snow machines.
Correct.
All right, so that's helpful information. I'll do a little more research on that. I'll talk to David Spears. I'm sure he's got some details there. And I
I'm
think,
wondering if we have anything in the archives going back probably 3 years, 4 years. Have we had any prior studies or investigations of that lake situation.
The only thing that I have that was done about 3, maybe 4 years ago was where it was actually not the dam, but dredging it out, and it was $250,000.
Ugh.
And I think part of the problem with that, if I recall correctly, is that if you dredge out that lake, create more water, the dam would not support it.
Yeah,
So-
definitely would not.
Wouldn't support that additional weight. So if that was a goal, then the dam would have to be repaired.
So the question is, do we need a lake? Or does a stream suffice? So some more research to be done on that. And obviously that kind of an infrastructure conversation would have to be with Harrison. That
Right.
we wouldn't be wanting to spend our money to do that. And and I think that's part of of probably the future conversation with Harrison about what's he want to do with the land he owns. So we'll put that on the list to have in the discussion with him. But before I do that, I really want to understand, what it is we want there or need there, if anything, so that we can have an intelligent conversation with him.
Hell, that dredging report that you have, it might be nice to share that with us.
I thought I had already shared it with Bill. Don't you have it? Or you or Holly? I've already given it to one of you. I can't
I don't
remember
have
which
it.
one.
I have
Okay.
not seen it, but if you could
Okay.
send it, I'd appreciate
I
it.
give it to somebody recently.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions on that? All right. Next one was we were trying to set up a meeting with Rick Story, Director of Forward Raven, to talk about how we might partner with them for some development and other challenges. And I think that's scheduled. He's coming to talk to us Tuesday, correct?
Right. He is going to do a presentation at the council meeting on Tuesday.
All right. Dan, have you had any other conversations with him?
I have not.
I have,
Tim,
I'm sorry, Tim. Yeah.
well, I don't, and I encourage you all, Rick's the source for funding that is available to us. And he's offered to me to arrange to come up here and talk to you all about funding that's available. So that should be one of your agenda topics. The other one is that he's hired a new marketing lady, and Jamie has encouraged me when I was on the phone with him. Right now, Rick's very busy because he's moving into his new office and he's dealing with some TDA issues that they're trying to clean up. So he's overwhelmed. So when I get a hold of him, I make sure I get everything on the table I can. But we talked about having, I think her name is CJ Thompson, the new marketing lady, have her meet with the marketing committee. And he said she'd give her a couple of weeks to get her feet on the ground, and then he'd be delighted to do that.
That's great.
thank you, Tim. And I passed on that information to Bob O'Keefe of the marketing committee, that he invite her to come talk. Thank you.
All right. So it'll be interesting to hear what he's got to say on Tuesday. That's great. Thanks everybody for moving that forward. Any other questions or comments on that? All right. Next on the agenda, as I mentioned in the opening, we really want to figure out a good way to get as much input from our property owners as possible. Really, not only on these projects, but what they would like to see happen in the valley. What do we need? What do they feel is missing? What would benefit the majority of the property owners, et cetera. So the discussion here was, what kind of process could we use to get that? And the thing that jumps to mind immediately is some sort of professionally done survey. that gets out to as many people as we have contact information for. So let me open that up, and the committee for comments, questions, ideas.
Well, the POA would be another, they're organized and have emails.
So that's a good database.
Do
They
we
have
have any
emails from
sense?
people that have joined POA, right?
Yeah.
True.
Not
Do
everybody.
we have any kind of a sense, Bill, what the cost would be for a professional survey?
Well, I think there's a couple ways to go with that. We either hire a company to do that, or if we have some people. I think Debbie Dahlhaus has experience with that. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, she did that in her professional career, and she, after I twisted both her arms gently, she has agreed to help us do that.
So that's one way to go, is have her engineer the proper questions, properly written, so we don't have any bias.
Yes.
And be fairly comprehensive, so we get what we need. And then we can gather up the databases we already have and get that out, either via email or SurveyMonkey or whatever. I mean, there's some inexpensive ways to do that. That'd be my first inclination, rather than spending thousands of dollars having somebody write something for us.
Sure.
One caution is that whenever you open up Pandora's box, it elicits high expectations.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
expectations.
Yep. That's true. That's always the thing with any surveys, and you know as well as I do, when we run businesses and we do employee surveys, we're on the hook, right, to respond to those, share the results. And I think one of the best practices is whatever comes up, if it's doable or reasonable and we decide to do it, then we have to deliver on it. If it's something we don't believe we can do, is not doable, can't be funded, then we need to be transparent and say this isn't going to be considered. And I've found, in all the best practices, that's kind of the best way to handle Pandora's box, if you will.
Yep.
Can't do everything. And, what we have to think about is what's reasonable, what will we commit to, and make sure that's shared with everybody. But I understand your concern, Tim.
Ella, I just got a text from Martin Green. He said he's trying to get in. He tried to get in, but you removed him. It says removed by the host.
Right, that's what I was saying earlier, because if they're listed as an iPhone, I can't let them in because of hacking. They're telling us not to do it. So they need to put their name when they sign up for Zoom. They need to put their names on there so we can see who they are.
Well, and the same applies to Will Gurley. He's trying to get through, but he's on an iPhone. And
Yeah, they're going to have to list their names on their Zoom accounts, because they're telling us that's the way people are getting in and hacking. So unless we want somebody to hack our meetings, we don't want that.
All right. Well,
going back to the discussion on surveys too, maybe it would be helpful to go back and look at the survey that was done probably 5 years ago, maybe 6. But we can look at that survey, see how effective it was, what was the good and the bad, to help us on doing this next survey. A lot of the things that were in that survey that our citizens were looking to have done actually got done, but I'm not sure how many suggestions that were in there that citizens wanted didn't get done. But
who has that?
It would help to go back and look at that.
Who has that
City should
info?
have it.
Ella, does the city have that?
I'm not sure if it's still here or
Okay.
not. I couldn't tell you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's when the city pavilion and pickleball courts and all that were developed from that survey.
I'm not sure if it's still in there or not.
Did you take a look and let us know?
I'll look and see.
Thank you. All right. Well, at the end of the day, at least I remain committed to hearing what, the majority has to say there. And I think the first step after you get a survey like that is to do the best we can to interpret it. But then the follow-up to that is we will probably have to have some other conversations with our property owners to clarify what they're saying, and to make sure that we fully understand, what the opinions and desires are out there. It's that's another best practice. You don't want to just take it on the surface and assume you know what everybody's talking about. So a little bit of work has to go into this thing after the fact, from us and the council. So.
Ella, were there any chats that we need to attend to?
Carla and then Debbie Dollhouse put something about Doug Collins was involved in the federal move to improve our rural internet. Why not just take the dam out since the pond is no longer required? And then Jim Curtis, it says, I think the pond was originally for agricultural purposes before Sky Valley was developed.
Okay, thank you.
And Carla said, got a note there about True Vista stops at Knob and Bayberry.
Yeah, she said that last time.
Okay. And Bruce said, any discussion on the future of CBC? So that was not on the agenda.
Does he mean from Harrison, Maryland?
Yeah, there was no discussion about that building.
Okay.
When Harrison originally was thinking of the ski slope, his discussion, as you know, we were there with him. He said we might use some of that building.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that thing, it's hard to think that anybody would spend the amount of money it's going to take to repair that building and bring it up to code, etc. So don't know, but I'll put that on the list with him as well. To follow up.
Great.
All right, so back to the surveys. Do we agree that we want to do that?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes, we agree to make that recommendation.
Okay.
So
So
want
I
a
think,
motion?
yeah.
All right. I'll make a motion that we work with Debbie Dollhouse to create a survey for the city. Do we want to establish what the scope of that survey is going to be? I mean, is it going to relate to Harrison Merrill's property? Is it going to be just a broad, what do we want to do?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct that we need to define the scope so that the questions are written appropriately.
But
And maybe we can get Debbie to help us define the scope and come back with a proposal for next meeting.
I think it's a great suggestion. Tim.
Okay.
All right. So we'll let the minutes reflect that, and if everybody's in agreement with that, Holly, I guess we'll get with Debbie and
Yeah. Yes.
have a discussion about the scope, and then we'll bring it back to the committee for approval and/or revision. Sound
Yes.
good?
Sounds good.
Scope and not being biased. Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, so that's the action item there.
Okay.
Okay. That concludes our agenda, unless anybody wants to bring up some new business.
Nothing I can think of.
All right, I'll take that as no new business. All right. Well, you guys make sure you stay healthy and dry out there. Eventually this rain should stop.
Do we want to schedule another meeting?
Yeah, I think at this point, I think we got a few things we need to do and follow up on. And then, pending getting that back together, we can schedule at that point. Or if you guys want to set another meeting, 3-4 weeks in the future, I'm fine with that too, whatever the committee wants to do.
I think if we set a meeting date, that'll give everybody a timeline to get their jobs done.
I agree.
2 weeks,
How much?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
What week is that? If you're looking at-
2 weeks from today is June the 4th.
I'm not available that week. You'll need to reschedule.
I'm sorry, Ella, what did you say?
I said I'm not available that week.
Then do it the next week.
How about June the 11th? That's the 3 weeks from today.
I'm not available on the 11th.
Okay,
It would have to be the afternoon of the 12th or the following week.
It needs to be the following week. Friday afternoons are rough around here.
Does it have to
looking
be a
at-
Friday?
Pardon me?
I said Friday afternoons are rough around here. I prefer not to
Yeah.
do them Friday afternoon if possible.
How about Wednesday afternoon, the 10th,
I'm out of town.
that week?
May not have access
And
to
I got
internet
a,
that
I
week.
got a meeting at 1:30 in Gainesville.
Why don't we just do like Bill said, and after everybody, we get some more information together, then we can send out a notice and y'all
Or
can
we,
determine.
or we can look at
About the
the
18th.
16th or 17th or 18th,
16th, we got a work session.
right?
so how
How about
about the 17th and 18th is fine with me.
I'm open.
The 16th wouldn't be so bad from the standpoint that instead of running 2 days, just ruin one of my days. So do the work council, at 10 o'clock and follow it with a mayoral committee meeting.
Yeah, we could do that after,
can do
after
that.
lunch.
I was gonna say, I'd prefer afternoon.
Okay,
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock on the 16th.
Okay,
Tim, you okay with that?
Yes, ma'am. I'm good.
All
All
right,
right, I'm good. Let's book it.
What time?
2
2
o'clock.
o'clock.
Okay.
And we need to get to Martin and Will and David and let them know that also.
And we need to let Martin and Will know that if they have any other commentary on any of these things, probably just to send it to you and I,
That
Holly.
would be great. And also, if they have questions on how to put their names in so that they can be at the next meeting, to contact Ella.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell Will to get in touch with you, Ella, because he
Mhm.
came back and said he's tried twice and he has identified himself using his phone. So did I
Okay.
understand you to say maybe it's trying to do it from an iPhone is the
Yeah,
problem?
because I've got, it looks like some people are trying to show up as iPhones, and that's the ones I've had to kick
Yeah.
out
Okay.
because of their hacking.
Maybe we can put a note on the meeting agendas, Ella, to let people know if they're going to click in with an iPhone, they have to do A, B, C, D.
Yeah,
Could we do
what we
that?
need to, well, what I think I need to do, if we're gonna continue with these Zoom meetings, I need to put some rules and regulations out. That they have to, first of all, they have to identify themselves, and make sure that they understand after a certain time, I can't allow them in the meeting, and, just set up some rules and regulations, because trying to keep up with you all, trying to keep up with the chat room, and me trying to take my notes things I need to do. We need to put some guidelines in here.
That would be great with each meeting agenda.
Well, what we'll do is I'll just send it out for when she does the Sky Valley Times that she's working on. We'll just send that out for Zoom. I'll make that part of mine, the administration.
You think that'll hit everybody rather than with the agenda itself? Well, I guess the agenda does go out to your
It goes
list.
to the same
Yeah.
people.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else?
You might include in your next communication too, that YouTube link.
Yes, I will. I'll make sure that's in there. Yeah.
Great.
Because when we get the new site up, it's already on there, but we're not putting it on the new one to have to change it, and because there's no need to redo the old one when we're working on the new one.
And you expect the new one to be up June 1?
We're hoping.
Trying.
You know how that is. All right, Ed, don't be laughing.
That was a smile.
I know, yeah, I know.
All right. There's nothing else to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you all for the work you're doing and all the great input. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.